How can we create safety in a relationship? My anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidant clients often feel unsafe in relationships and they crave feeling calm and safe. But when I ask them what makes you feel safe, they cannot pinpoint it. So when we cannot pinpoint what makes us feel safe, we also cannot verbalize that to our partner, and therefore the relationship is not going to feel fulfilling and it's not necessarily broken. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly what creates safety in a relationship, and this can work for you if you are already in a partnership and you can collaborate with your partner on creating that feeling of safety. And if you are dating, you can look for people who have many of these traits. Now, if you're dating and you find a person who doesn't fulfill all of the requirements, it doesn't mean that you have to just discard them and look for somebody else that is going to tick all the boxes. We can create safe relationships as long as both parties are willing to work together. And these 9 steps are going to help you create that, because when you feel safe, you are in a different space in your nervous system. You can access social engagement, which is that feel-good place in your nervous system where you can rest, digest, where you can connect with people, where you can be your best self, where you can bring your fun to the table. This is the very interesting thing about safety. When we don't feel safe, we will not be playful. We will be very tense. When we are in our sympathetic nervous system overdrive, we will be hypervigilant, checking out their environment, checking out the micro impressions. So it's very important for us to shift those gears, not only so that we can enjoy our connections, but also for our body. Because it doesn't serve us to be constantly in the sympathetic nervous overdrive, because that makes us sick in the long term. So it's very important to understand how to create these safe connections so that when we come home to our partner, this is a place of rest, regeneration. All right, so let's go over these 9 steps. The first one is validation. And especially for my fearful avoidants who often feel unheard in relationships. Sometimes anxious preoccupieds often feel unheard as well. So what is validation? I'm just going to do a little short explanation of it, and then I'll do a completely separate video on validation because it is extremely important. Validation is just basically saying that your feelings make sense. I understand how you're feeling the way you're feeling. It doesn't mean we have to say, yes, you're absolutely 100% right. Your feelings are not necessarily correct, but I can understand that you are allowed your feelings. You're allowed to feel sad, angry, glad, happy, whatever it is. You're allowed your feelings, and we try to understand why a person is feeling the way that they are feeling. A lot of couples go wrong here, and this is why a lot of people cannot resolve conflict, because instead of validating somebody's feelings and just trying to understand their partner, when they bring something to the table, the other person gets defensive. And according to the Gottman's Institute, defensiveness is one of the 4 horsemen that breaks up relationships. So we have to be really conscious of validating people and also validating ourselves, understanding that I can experience all sorts of feelings. Whether those feelings are actually true or not, that doesn't matter. What matters is that we understand the emotional component. We don't just chuck it out of the window. We don't try to make somebody's feelings wrong. Our feelings are an indication of how we perceive the world. And if you look at somebody's past and you see perhaps they've had these challenges, difficulties, or traumas in their lives that change the way that they think, feel, and act in the world and how they perceive the world, all you have to do is just try to understand them. And if you don't understand them, just ask questions. What are you feeling? Why would you see it that way? I just want to know so that I can understand you better. And once a person feels understood, they feel more connected. Because if we, instead of validating their feelings, we advise them when they didn't ask for advice, we try to fix them, or we get defensive, then this creates a disconnection, and then there is a break. Whenever there's a break in connection, there is no safety. When somebody validates your feelings, you will start to feel like you are seen, like you are heard, like somebody is in your corner because they truly understand you. And the interesting thing that happens is often when we validate a person's feelings, they have this opportunity to calm down, to shift gears in their nervous system, and often they will ask for your advice or be more open to hearing what it is that you want to say. But that's not always necessary. And it's so beautiful that you don't have to be the person to fix your partner's problems, or you can also tell your partner, hey, you know what, I don't really need you to give me advice. I know your advice is very good and I really appreciate it, but all I need in the moment is just to be heard, and I feel heard when I feel validated. Okay? So understand that validation is not something that all of us receive as children. 50% of the population at least has an insecure attachment style. So the chances are that our feelings were not validated are quite high. And if our feelings were not validated, we didn't develop that muscle. It's a skill. So we have to practice it. So if your partner is not doing it for you, you can just tell them how to do it, right? Just say to them, you can just validate my feelings, try to understand where I'm coming from. And this also increases empathy, connection, and you will feel safe. I will make a whole video on this because it's a really good topic, and it can also help you to greatly reduce conflict. All right, the second part is consistency. Consistency is extremely important. If we cannot predict a person's behavior because they are inconsistent, so this means sometimes they message you 10 times a day, other times they don't message you for 3 days, sometimes they are sweet to you, sometimes they push you away. If you receive these kind of mixed signals, you're not going to feel safe. Okay, so if you are the person doing that to your partner, understand that that is going to create huge feelings of unsafety, and some people will either cling to you. The anxious types will, in fearful avoidance and anxious preoccupieds, will generally cling, and the dismissive avoidance will push people away. And then you might wonder, like, why am I receiving this very weird reaction from people? And that might be because of inconsistency. Okay, so consistency, try to be consistent in how you're showing up. And when you cannot be, say, for example, you do have to withdraw for whatever reason. Maybe you are going through your own stuff. Maybe you have a work project. Maybe you're going through something in your life. Communicate that. Tell the person, okay, I really need to focus on myself for the next 2 days because I'm going through something and it's not about you. Just that little piece of communication is going to change how the other person perceives the relationship. The anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidance will feel extremely anxious when there is this big disconnect. Whenever a person doesn't explain their actions, what happens with the mind is that it goes into the past, it searches for the most painful experiences and projects it into the present moment and then the future. And it does this in a way to keep us safe so that we don't repeat the same mistakes that we did in the past that made us feel unsafe. So it's very normal, it's natural. Okay, so we have this negativity bias. So it's very important to be upfront and communicate. Today I'm going to have a very busy day. I will not be able to text you until tonight or till tomorrow. Just communicating that will put the other person's mind at ease. And if your partner's not doing that, you can just ask them, like, hey, I know you're extremely busy. I see that this is what you're going through. Or perhaps you're dating a dismissive avoidant and sometimes they just need to pull away. Okay, allowing a little bit for that. Just tell them when you need to pull away. All you need to do is just tell me, I need to go into my cave. I need to look after myself. And this has got nothing to do with you. Just give you that reassurance and also tell you what they are doing. So you need to work together to create safety. And if you're looking at this video and saying, oh, my partner's never going to do that. If your partner is not willing to collaborate with you on creating safety in a relationship, then you need to consider if this is somebody that has your best interest at heart. Because people on the internet will have these talks about dismissive avoidance, and some of them are positive, some of them are negative. You know, we're always trying to understand each other, where we are coming from. And as a relationship coach, I have great deal of compassion for everyone who comes to see me, no matter what their attachment style is. However, the people who are not willing to work on themselves and their trauma is causing pain to you, you need to then decide if that's what you want to do. Because people can really hurt themselves by staying in situations that are not safe and where the other person is not willing to collaborate. Of course, when we invite our partners to collaborate on the relationship, we have to approach them in a way that is gracious, that is considerate of them and their wounds, and that is gentle and warm. Okay, so when you speak to your partner, don't say, oh, you're inconsistent, you are doing this and this and this wrong, because that will shut them down, no matter who it is, right? We do not receive that type of criticism very well. What we do receive well and what we want to work towards as people is gentle communication, where we can say, you know what, I saw this pattern in our relationship that sometimes we chat a lot, sometimes then we don't speak for 3 days. And the effect that it has on me is that I feel very anxious in that time. So how do you feel about we troubleshoot this, and when you need space, you just tell me, right? Or when you forget to tell me, I'm going to remind you like, hey, are you taking space? What's happening here? And then you can come forward and tell me what's going on, and then I will give you your space. Okay, this is how we can work together through these difficult patterns so that we can both get what we want and feel safe in a relationship. Number 3, congruency. Congruency means that our actions and our words align. A lot of anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidant clients will go on what their partner says and the promises that they make. And then they feel extremely disappointed when the actions don't follow through. And often they get stuck in relationships that promise a lot and they sound very good, but there is no follow through. And fearful avoidance and anxious preoccupieds will often not want to hold people accountable and say like, hey, you know what, we've agreed that our communication is going to be more consistent, and I see that you still don't message me that you're going to take time out. So people, anxious types will not do this because they have that abandonment wound. They don't want to rock the boat just in case they scare off the other person. They don't want to be seen as needy. So they will not hold people accountable, right? So that's the double whammy over here. It's like, first of all, they listen to people and go on the promises and not really the actions. So if you are out of a relationship, right? So look for people who do what they say. Like in the dating phase of a relationship, you need to see that if a person tells you they're going to be somewhere at 3 o'clock, they are there at 3 o'clock. Or if they tell you they're going to message you in the morning, that they message you in the morning. And if they don't message you in the morning, be the person to go like, hey, I've noticed that you said this and you didn't do it. What's happening for you? Instead of blaming immediately and jumping to conclusions, ask questions like, hey, what's happening over here? This is what you said. Because if somebody gives you their word, you are allowed to keep them to their word. Okay, so that's the 2 components of that congruency. And if a person you see is incapable of showing up congruently, for whatever reason, right? Maybe they have trauma, maybe they are busy, maybe they have kids. If they are not showing up congruently, then you have to make a decision about that. What is that doing in you and your mental health? If you are able to just go like, oh, I can understand where they are coming from. This is not malicious or intentional. They are sometimes forgetful, but they have all of these other amazing qualities that make me feel fulfilled. Yeah, then of course, we are all people. We are all messy. We're not going to be perfect. So leave them. Maybe this is something that you forgive consistently with them. But if this is something that really unsettles you emotionally, you need to address it in your relationship, because that's a very big factor in trust, right? If I say something and I follow through, I know you can trust me. That's what congruency does. Okay, number 4 is availability. Availability means, and I'm not talking about polyamorous relationship because that's a completely different style of relationships. I'm mostly talking about monogamy, okay? Not that polyamory or CNM or ENM is in any way wrong, but just to keep this video quite simple, availability, okay, is making plans. It's like, is this person available to me, to make plans with me, to reach out to me? This is how you can tell. Even dismissive avoidance, even though they have a lower capacity and want for connection, for them, they will still reach out more and more frequently to the person that they are interested in than to a person that they are not interested in. If they are not interested in a person at all, they will not reach out to them at all. Not during the week, not at all, right? So that's how you know that a person is interested in you, is when they are available, right? Like if they have a partner, they are married, they are in a different relationship, they are not available. I'm talking about monogamous relationships, right? They are not available. I could go into polyamory, but that's like a completely different video. It's going to take a long time. So if you want that, just leave a comment below. So availability, like, are they single and available for a relationship? Did they actually say, I am available for a relationship? My heart is open. I am ready to bring a partner into my space. Because sometimes people are single, but they are getting over their ex, or they still haven't got themselves figured out. They don't know where they're going in life. They are still in this this process of being a hermit. Okay, do they have space for you also with everything that's going on, with their family commitments, with their work commitments, with their mental health, exercise programs, whatever? Do they actually have time and space and emotional capacity for a relationship? That is availability. Okay? And if they don't have availability, even if they think you are the best person in the world, and they on paper can be the best person in the world, but they can't see you, they literally don't have the time because they are so fully booked. Maybe they're a business person or whatever it is, and they are so fully booked that you can't literally fit in sideways in between their appointments. They are not available. Okay? Or if they have all the time in the world, but they are emotionally close to you, they don't want to talk to you, they're not making future plans with you, they're not reaching out to you, they don't want to hold you or hug you, or they are not available. No matter how great they are and how much space they have or time. Okay, number 5, boundaries. Boundaries are super important to make all of us feel safe. Kids need boundaries to feel safe. If somebody is not setting their boundaries with me, that means that they are out of touch with their emotions and their needs, and they are people pleasing. When they are people pleasing, it is very difficult to figure out what they really want and who they are. And that will make me feel unsafe, because and then I think, okay, well, where else are they people pleasing? And it will also make a person hypervigilant, because now we get placed in this position where I have to figure out where this person's boundaries are. So that is not great. I know my anxious, preoccupied, and fearful avoidance watching this, they go like, ouch, I've been called out. I can't believe that I'm an unsafe person because I don't have boundaries. I try to give everything to everybody. Okay, but consider that that is not the correct thing to do. That is going to make other people feel unsafe with you. All right, number 6, Accountability. I've mentioned accountability a little bit when I mentioned congruency. Accountability is great when a person comes to you and says, you know what, I did this thing, like I told you I'm going to message you in the morning, but now it's already the evening and I didn't do that. I'm so sorry. I was so busy in the morning. I woke up late and then my whole day was just one thing after the next. Okay, they took accountability. They came to you and said, this is what I did wrong. Perhaps you come to a person and say like, hey, you know what, this thing that you said to me about, I don't know, my butt looking big on those jeans felt really hurtful to me. And then they go like, oh wow, I can, that was a joke for me, but I can see how that made you feel and I'm so sorry that it hurt you. That is accountability. Accountability is great because then we know if a person takes accountability, they can take our feelings and needs into consideration. They can also self-reflect and see like, oh, my actions have an influence on other people, and in order for me to be in this relationship, I need to be sensitive. Like this person in front of me is quite sensitive around this topic, so I need to help them to feel safe. And that's how you collaborate. And a lot of fearful avoidance and anxious preoccupieds will be like, oh, but I don't want them to change. I don't want to control them. I don't want to be that person that's like telling them how to be. And this is why often they end up in relationships that are literally unfulfilling because they don't stand up for what they need. Often fearful avoidance and anxious preoccupieds feel unsafe because they don't want to be controlling. The point is, we have to tell each other about our wounds, about our vulnerabilities, and show up fully. And this is the only way you know if this person is going to be compatible with you or not. If this person says, okay, cool, I don't want to deal with this, you would have saved yourself months or years of pain of being unfulfilled. You would stop wasting time and show up more truthfully and actually find a person that is going to be more suitable for you, that is willing to give you that. Okay, so this is the beauty of showing up, really showing up as yourself instead of trying to mold yourself and hide certain things and not talk about stuff because you are afraid that the other person is going to be scared away. Or you're going to scare the other person away. Maybe that's better English. All right, conflict resolution. Okay, this goes hand in hand with validation and accountability and boundaries, just communication, right? So I promise you validation, if you practice that on a daily basis, validate your own feelings, okay, so you know what that feels like. Also a great tip is to when you validate your own feelings, you are less likely to get into relationships where you will be gaslit or that you will miss red flags of gaslighting. When people get into relationships where they are gaslit, it's because they are out of touch with their own feelings and they are gaslighting themselves. So they are invalidating their own feelings. So validate your own feelings, understand yourself, stand up for yourself, and also validate other people's feelings. You will cut down your conflict, you will increase feelings of connection. And with conflict resolution, when we feel like we can move through conflict, which feels super scary for most of us, when we can move through conflict into resolution, that creates a strong bond. It makes us feel so calm, like I know I can be in this relationship, I can be myself, I can bring something to my partner without it being a 3-day fight or a stonewalling or, throwing pots and pans at each other, like crazy behavior. I can resolve this conflict and get my needs met, get their needs met, and we can build this amazing relationship together. It's power work, conflict resolution. Start with validation, feelings, needs, setting boundaries, making requests. Those things are going to take you to that place. Okay, honesty, it's almost like a no-brainer, right? If somebody is dishonest with you, how can you trust them? How can you feel safe with them? So honesty, if you're fearful avoidant and you have a lot of trust wounds or even anxious preoccupied, most of the insecure attachment wounds have or styles, not wounds, have trust wounds just in a different flavor of them all. Maybe, if you can use that English, sorry guys. So honesty, right? You need to build trust by being honest. Okay, fearful avoidance, if you've had a lot of trust wounds, you might want a person to be honest to the place of like never telling a little bit of a lie or omitting any information. It's a little bit too strict as well. So find that happy medium. You know, sometimes humans will tell a little white lie about like, yeah, that top looks really great on you, or I really love the food you made. And for a fearful avoidant or a person who's had a lot of trust wounds, they might take that and go like, oh, this person cannot be trusted because they told this little white lie. Okay, if we are so triggered by a little white lie, generally that is an indication that we have to work on our own trust wounds. However, if this person is lying to you about something or omitting information about finances, or perhaps, I don't know, they're hiding that they had kids, or that they have had an ex-wife, or, something important, something that is going to really influence your life, then that is a serious breach of trust that either needs to be repaired or you need to decide to step back. And number 9, reciprocity. Reciprocity is this beautiful exchange of energy, and it includes different things for different people, right? So some people love to compliment. If you're in a relationship or you're getting into a relationship, notice what the other person does for you. Say, for example, the other person does acts of service for you, right? So they run around and they do the groceries, they clean your house, they do these acts of service. Clearly, their love language is acts of service, and they would like to be loved in that way. And for example, your love language is gifts or it's quality time. And then you have to communicate with that to your partner so there can be that fair exchange, and you can feel like there is this reciprocal investment in the relationship, that the energy is not just flowing one way. So you're not the only one stepping back and going, oh, my partner has these wounds and I have to take care of them, and this is what they want and this is what they need, because that is self-abandonment and self-betrayal. You have to be grounded. We have to be grounded in ourselves, in our bodies, and work through our discomfort with being connected to ourselves, and through that fear of showing up and standing up for ourselves and say, like, this is what I want, this is how I want to get it, right? So if I have to stand up for myself and say, like, hey, I receive love through quality time, but the quality time I want to do a shared activity that will bring us closer together. Okay? So that shared activity needs to be like, I don't know, like a movement instead of like watching TV together, right? So that's how I would show up and tell my partner what my needs are, how I want them to show up. And they might show up, if it's not their love language, they might not show up in it perfectly because they haven't practiced it, but they're trying. They're trying to meet me. I'm trying to meet them, right? If you watch this video and you all of a sudden like, oh my goodness, this is just like, we don't have point like 4 and 3 in our relationship, and you go to your partner and they are willing to listen to you, willing to collaborate with you, willing to do a little bit of work on the relationship, right? Also not making the whole relationship about just working each other's stuff out, because that can be too intense for a person, but just like, making it light as well as informative, informing your partner of what it is that you want, being curious about your partner, what it is that they want, having them giving to you, you being able to receive, big one, for fearful avoidance and anxious preoccupied, understanding how to receive, be in that parasympathetic nervous system, or if you like that idea of being, having your divine feminine energy activated, which is also a part of your parasympathetic nervous system, no matter if you're a man or a woman, the feminine energy is the one that receives. So being able to receive We need to be able to calm ourselves to be able to receive. And then we're also able to give. Okay, so both of those components are very important. So check with yourself. Are you open to receiving compliments, gifts, another person's affection? Like literally sit with your heart and see, is my heart open to love? Can I allow somebody in and receive them, as well as can I give to them? Because a lot of fearful avoidance and anxious preoccupied individuals, they want to receive on some level, but they never want to ask for it. They never want to tell their partner what their feelings and needs are. So they are hiding, and often their hearts are closed to receiving. And you can say that because you can see that when somebody compliments them, and then they push the compliment away, or they negate it in some way, or somebody tries to pay for their dinner, or clean the house, or offer to help, and they reject that. Okay, that is you blocking somebody giving to you, and perhaps you are overgiving, which breaks reciprocity, or you are in a relationship with a person who is not giving. Okay, so you have to figure out which that is. And sometimes with this, I think I have to do a whole video on this, because as I'm talking to you, like there's so many things that are popping into my mind about this. So sometimes with this is like we train our partner after some time to not reciprocate, because we make them feel bad for giving to us if we are not gracious in the way that we receive what they are giving, the affection they're giving, the compliments they are giving, and how they are giving it. Okay, so check that out. All right, so the 9 points are validation, consistency, congruency, availability, boundaries, accountability, conflict resolution, honesty, reciprocity. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you find safety, love, and freedom in your relationships. This is what I'm all about, shifting from surviving to thriving, and creating these lives of love, safety, and freedom, which is available to all of us. You're welcome to book an appointment with me. I'm going to sit the Satipatthana, which is the next level of Vipassana now. I'm extremely excited. As I'm posting, when this video is going to come out, I'm most probably going to be like halfway through. So I'm sending you guys a lot of positive energy until I see you in the next one. Big love.